Now, the DA leadership candidate, Mbali Ntuli, has challenged her opponent, John Steenhuisen, to a televised debate. She says this will help inform the public on where the party stands on some key issues such as land, as well as the current state of the country. Ntuli held a briefing today on her campaign to be the next leader of the Democratic Alliance. Back in February, the former Youth League head threw her hat into the race for the DA leadership contest. In May, the DA's Federal Council resolved to proceed with a virtual elective Congress, which is set to take place in October and November. The Congress was initially expected to take place at the end of May, but was postponed due to restrictions associated with coronavirus lockdown. Around 2,000 members are set to vote for the party's new leader. Ntuli is set to face the current interim leader, John Steenhuisen.
I am challenging Mr. John Steenhuisen to a series of 4 live, televised, democratic debates in keeping with the great liberal tradition. I cannot think of a valid reason why John or the party would oppose an open and transparent debate of national interest on a public platform. I think it's important because it seems like there are many notable differences between myself and John Steenhuisen. Mengabe nje ubuka ama-manifesto ethu, kuyacaca ukuthi khona umehluko phakathi kwendlela sobabili sicabanga ngayo ukuthi fanele siqhubeke noma fanele siphathe isizwe. And ngicabanga ukuthi kubalekile ngempela ukuthi abantu bebe nethuba ukuthi besibuze imibuzo nokuthi futhi besibone ukuthi simephi mengabe kuhambisana nenkinga ebhekene nesimo somnotho nokuthi abantu abanamhlaba. These are the critical choices that the Democratic Alliance must make when it comes to our 2 leaders.
Mbali Ntuli joins us now. Ms. Ntuli, welcome to Daytime Update. Good to have you with us this afternoon. Perhaps let's start. Thank you. Perhaps let's start at the beginning. Initially, you were very vocal about your dissatisfaction about the virtual voting process. Your concerns at the time, you were saying that this process would mean that a lot of voters and a lot of your members would not be able to vote. Have those fears been allayed? Are you now happy to go ahead with the virtual voting and the virtual Congress?
Public about my concerns surrounding the virtual conference. I've again written to Dr. Ivan Meyer about the concerns I have about the security and the efficacy even of the voting system that we're going to be using. But I was outvoted on that particular aspect, and so the party is going ahead with the virtual conference. And so I must go ahead with what has been decided. But in terms of the technical issues, I think that there still needs to be some very clear outlining of how they're going to clarify those particular issues, because it will throw the entire legitimacy of the Congress into question. So I have written that, and I am expecting a response from Dr. Ivan Meyer and our FedEx in the next little while. I still believe that we aren't going to have the kind of Congress that will give our party the kind of renewal and the kind of oomph going forward, but I accept the decision that has been made by the Federal Council delegates, and I'm very happy that at the very least they agreed with my call to have it a deliberative conference rather than just an elective one, which I think would have been a farce of an election.
So this is going ahead even despite your misgivings. Should the outcome of these elections not be to your favor, is this something that you're going to contest, considering the fact that you contested this right from the beginning, going in?
I think only if they're not able to sort out the technical issues, which are things like not being able to verify that the person who is voting is actually a delegate, not being able to verify that the links haven't been sent to other people to vote on their behalf, and also allowing my team to be able to actually count the votes as they come in and that they are allocated to the right candidates. If the party is not able to satisfactorily answer my campaign team and I on that, then we may have to decide some things going forward. But I won't continue in a race if I don't believe that it will be legitimate. But as it stands, the party has taken my concerns and they are hopefully addressing them, and I wait to hear what they'll all be saying.
You have proposed to have a US-style televised debate with John Steenhuisen. Why is this important for you?
DA has held itself to to be a party that has debates at every single Congress. In fact, Mr. Steenhuisen himself, when he was Newsy's right-hand man, was championing the idea of having public debates. And I think that it's a good idea because I think that being the leader of the official opposition is not something that only delegates need to see, but something the public needs to see because obviously they'll be the ones that will be raising us in the next local government elections. And I think that it's important that we are vetted and that our ideas are fully ventilated for all South Africans to see so that we can actually have an idea of who it is that is standing. And I think it's so important because we've seen in our country what a lack of transparency and honesty we have from our political party and candidates. And I look forward to both of us being able to say where we stand on certain issues.
Your entire election campaign is created and banded around new beginnings. You're wanting a new way. Where do you believe the DA stands now in the country as far as the amount of pull and, I guess, credibility that it has with South Africans?
I don't think we're anywhere near where we should be. I think given the 9 failed years that we've had of our governing party, the rampant corruption, looting that we even see now during COVID, we should be doing far better as a party. And I think that there's a definite misstep between us and voters at the moment. And it doesn't matter the fact that our governing party has failed so dismally. It's clear that we are not being able to really tap into what voters want to see and hear from us. And I believe, as the leader of the DA, what we need to do is really try to earn voters' trust, is to really speak and be open and frank with voters and to accept and explain when we make mistakes, unlike other political parties. But most importantly, to be present in voters' lives and communities as much as possible. And potentially even more so in places where we haven't had strongholds like rural areas, like townships, because that is the only way that voters will see you all the time and will begin to trust that you are able to deliver services for them. If we don't do that, and if we use the same playbook of simply throwing facts at voters and hoping that that is enough to persuade them, it's not going to be, because people vote more on actually how parties make them feel and on how relatable their leaders are than just on the fact that maybe you govern better in some municipalities in the governing party. It's just simply not enough. And if we can't tap into the human emotion, the empathy and the kindness that is required in politics, I don't think that we are going to see a significant change in our next election.
Mbali, your reaction to President Ramaphosa moving the country to lockdown level 2 come midnight tonight? John Steenhuisen yesterday said it's too little too late. Your thoughts?
I think it's very difficult to make assumptions on everything that's happened, given that, everyone knew very little about what was happening with the coronavirus in the beginning. I think it's always unfair to make hindsight decisions based on stuff that none of us really knew. I do think that President Ramaphosa has failed dismally to be held accountable, given that he hasn't allowed any scrutiny around the decisions that he's made, any scrutiny around where he has been giving evidence for the decisions he's been making. And I think in that sense, he definitely has failed and needs to answer to the South African people. I think that our economy has been decimated in ways that it didn't have to be. The alcohol ban, for example, if the president was citing, needed to be implemented at night because that's when the majority of accidents and traumas relating to alcohol occurred, could have been lifted during the day for people to be able to go to restaurants for lunch, for example. And that would have helped the industry and some institutions there. So I think there could have been compromise and far more creative ways to have dealt with some of the issues before in COVID. I think that the president was a bit rigid in that sense, but I really think that to completely say that everything that has been done has been unfounded is unfair, given that nobody knew at the beginning of COVID what was going to happen. And I want to take the spirit in when I actually start to speak to other political parties, when we have to do coalitions, when we have to discuss how we can take our country forward, because it's going to help nobody if we are constantly seen to be on the side that isn't providing solutions and is trying to work with what we have before us to make the country better.